Good Monday evening to you on this 3rd of August 2020, as we are approaching the 0 hour for now Hurricane Isaias, recently upgraded to a Category 1 hurricane as of the 8 p.m. National Hurricane Center advisory just a few moments ago. Remember to make all decisions solely based upon forecast information and official forecast products from the National Hurricane Center, from your local emergency management officers and departments, or from your local National Weather Service offices and local jurisdictions. So again, as I said, Hurricane Isaias, I should say, is approaching a landfall between the border of South Carolina and North Carolina. You can see it racing northward. The presentation on radar is much improved today, and it looks, unfortunately, as healthiest as it has in its entire life cycle over the Caribbean and into the southwestern Atlantic. And a lot of this, rain ahead of the system has been a concern and has been as advertised, kind of saturating the ground before the tropical rains even really get going overnight tonight. So that's certainly a concern as it keeps pumping in this tropical moisture. We've had rounds, 2 or 3 rounds of very heavy rain and thunderstorm activity that have raced northward all the way up into the Washington, D.C. metro area. A very bad day down in Atlanta as well, down where they had a very bad thunderstorm right over the Atlanta metro area, causing traffic snarls and a bunch of headaches there. So just a mess of a day across the southeast and mid-Atlantic. We've had this upper level trough that's been helping force thunderstorms and shower activity unrelated to Isaias, but that in relation, or that in tandem with the moisture being pulled in from Isaias, is just causing a big mess over North Carolina. And again, North Carolina getting the brunt of the heavy rain right now, and eastern South Carolina getting in on it now with the actual tropical moisture beginning to come on there. But you can see, these popcorn thunderstorms that have formed all down here congealed into a line, and just a big mess of a day across North Carolina and South Carolina, and going to be a mess of a day tomorrow across the mid-Atlantic, all the way up through New England, New York City Metro, New England, Maritime Canada. It's truly maximizing its water footprint. And, nowhere on the Saffir-Simpson scale does it say how much water is going to be included with, when I say water, I mean rain, included with a tropical system. So again, Category 1 hurricane, don't let your guard down. Heavy rain and flooding rain is still the #1 killer when it comes to tropical systems. So make sure you, plan accordingly and heed warnings, and you turn around, do not drown. And, be vigilant of flooded roadways. You do not know how deep the water is, so just be aware of that. All right, that's my public service announcement. Moving on to a closer view of the radar, you can see we have a couple, we now have one tornado warning down here with Isaias. With these spouts coming, or these water spouts coming on land, you can even make out, without me even turning on the velocity, you can see this hook feature down here, these little kidney bean shapes here and here. And I guarantee you that if I turned on the super res velocity here on RadarScope, each of them are showing rotation, and that is because we have frictional forces. You already have, the hurricane is a naturally rotating system, and anytime you have these, butted up against each other, you have embedded spin-ups within the hurricane. So you have a hurricane, think as if you're having, a jug of water or a big pot of water, and you're stirring it, counterclockwise or clockwise or whatever. There can sometimes be little eddies that form, inside of that. And that is exactly what is happening with the system. It's a naturally, rotating system, and those eddies can form, and, smaller little circulations within that. And that's what's, here. And unfortunately, this is hitting very close to where Hurricane Dorian hit last year. Currently a circulation, this one is especially concerning, over Brunswick County, and now over the Bolivia area, down to Curry Beach, Carolina Beach, all on the Crystal Coast, got hammered by I believe an EF2 tornado came onshore with Hurricane Dorian last September. So certainly not what you want to see, but certainly expected with tropical systems, especially when they're riding parallel to the coast in this northeastern quadrant. Again, if I turn the radar back on, it is the northeastern quadrant of the storm, this here, where you have these tornadoes. And if you look, voila, you have these rotating thunderstorms in the northeast quadrant. So it's just like clockwork. You can expect it every time, and that's why a severe weather risk by the Storm Prediction Center and the National Hurricane Center has been pointed out, saying, hey, coastal plain of North Carolina, watch out for the threat for tornadic, or rotating storms coming on shore that could produce a quick spin-up tornado as Hurricane Isaias moves inland and moves northward through the night. So something we'll have to keep an eye on. And power outages also a big, even if a tornado is not, observed in those storms, still producing very gusty winds or still severe thunderstorms with a rotating mesocyclone underneath. So power outages becoming, pretty real scenario, probably more significant than Dorian, just because Dorian barely clipped Cape Hatteras out here. And Isaias will move inland and will cause much more of a power outage footprint, I believe, because of the size of the storm and moving up through populated areas and all that jazz. But anyway, just wanted to show you that tornadoes are a real threat and are being observed with the system. So that is certainly something to keep an eye on. Okay, now moving on to the flooding rain thing. So, back here when we looked at the radar, you could see all these, the ground was already saturated from the rain falling, and now the heavier rains coming in tonight with those tropical storm force winds for most of the area and hurricane force winds here at the coast now, as it's been upgraded to a hurricane. You can officially say that. But, the main thing here, we'll start simply with the storm surge threat, down here from Georgetown, Pawleys Island, up through Myrtle Beach, up through the border of North Carolina and South Carolina, Calabash, the Crystal Coast. Those are going to be the areas that have the worst storm surge effect. And then the storm this is actually new. I haven't really seen this. The storm will be pushing some water in through the barrier islands into the Pamlico Sound, the Albemarle Sound, and they've now highlighted this, which I believe this is under the National Weather Service office in Newport Morehead City, and also in joint effort with Wakefield, Virginia. So interesting to see that now. But storm surges, just anytime you have a tropical system, the threat for higher water is certainly something you look out for. So storm surge threat is limited to the coast. Wind threat is, again, it's an I-95 special. I can zoom out here and go all the way up the eastern seaboard. Look at this. Check this out. This is the Interstate 95 corridor up through here. And would you believe that it is basically, mirroring the I-95 corridor as it's going to travel up this way. And as the storm continues to go up this way, all to the right are going to have the greatest wind threat. And that is why this is highlighted in that orange color, which indicates, well, it's not shown here, but the orange indicates a moderate risk for tropical storm force winds. So certainly something to watch out for. And that's where the orange shading is where you're likely to have the highest percentage of power outages, over the whole area. So, some places like New Jersey, the entire state, Delaware, the eastern shore, the Delmarva Peninsula, Tidewater, Virginia, Outer Banks, Inner Banks of North Carolina, up through New York City Metro, and all of Connecticut as well. You can keep naming them. All those areas likely to see a prolonged period of tropical storm force winds for a couple hours to a few hours as Isaias continues to move up the eastern seaboard. The tornado threat, again, outlined to that area that I just pointed out down here. I'm not going to rehash that. Flooding threat, there is a heightened concern. The page seems to have frozen up on me here. A heightened concern for the, this area, this corridor from northeastern North Carolina up through Richmond, up through Washington, up through, I think of Ellicott City, Maryland, that a city that perennially floods when it comes to these tropical systems, up through Philadelphia Metro, Allentown, Pennsylvania, up through New York City Metro. Expected to see that corridor of heaviest rain as Isaias continues to move inland. And all of that is to be said that if we check on the Southeast River Forecast Center again, if you watched the video yesterday, you heard me say that these stream gauges tend to underestimate and do not account for the rain ahead of the system. Well, that is exactly what's occurred, unfortunately. Yesterday, a lot of these dots were green, and now they're orange, which are indicating minor flooding. And that's before the actual system has even made landfall. So certainly a concerning trend there. And that's just a result of all the water that falls over the Piedmont. Excuse me. All the water that falls over the Piedmont has to go somewhere. So it goes downstream toward the coast. And then you have coastal inundation from water being pushed up against it from the storm. And you have kind of a bad flooding situation. And that is notoriously what happens with the Lumber River, the Cape Fear River, Neuse River, Tar River, all these areas where flooding is so common with these storms. And it does not take a bona fide hurricane to produce major flooding issues. With Category 1 Hurricane Isaias, we're still going to see those flooding impacts just because of the water footprint. Like I mentioned, the Saffir-Simpson scale does not take into account any kind of precipitation threshold, how much rain you can expect from the system. So certainly something we'll have to watch. Currently, moderate flooding indicated for the Neuse River and down through the Tar River as well, and the Lumber River now showing up, and the Cape Fear River as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on that to see what's going on. In terms of power outages right now, strangely, the hot spots over here in Rutherford County and Cleveland County, where I think a severe thunderstorm or a strong thunderstorm earlier knocked out power to a significant percentage of the county, and you can see some little yellow shadings where maybe some, routine outages, I say in air quotes, it's not routine to have the power out, but maybe unrelated incidents or isolated incidents. But I really expect this corner of North Carolina, up through here, to really start lighting up tonight as we have those tropical storm force winds, sustained, and possible gust up to hurricane force, unfolding across the eastern half of the state, across the coastal plain. I really think it's going to be a North Carolina coastal plain special yet again. North Carolina is kind of a magnet for these storms. So, again, I think that's going to be the main concern, and that's going to happen overnight tonight while North Carolinians are sleeping. So that is a concern, especially with the saturated ground. I think about trees falling and things like that. So just stay vigilant, stay aware, make sure you have ways to warn yourself, and make sure that you are staying vigilant of the conditions around you. So really, that's all I had for this video. I just wanted to do a radar update, show you what was going on with the tornadoes and the waterspouts down in southeastern North Carolina, go over the threats again and the Southeast River Forecast Center, and I'm going to be posting regularly on Facebook and Twitter to monitor the storm as it continues to go across North Carolina and up through the mid-Atlantic and up through the Northeast. So we will see what Hurricane Isaias has in store. I will post a video update tomorrow as we are seeing what the storm is doing as it continues up through the mid-Atlantic, and I look forward to seeing you in that video. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to message me or leave a comment on this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe.